afternoon, Pokésports, and welcome to a new video. Now, instead of playing, competitive Pokemon battles on the Sword and Shield ladder today, we're going to be going ahead and looking at the new trailer that dropped, but not just look at the trailer, because yes, we know we got a new Giraffe form, we got some new TMs in a machine, we got some sandwiches, we got picnics, we got 2 new abilities. Yeah, it's a lot of cool things to talk about, but today, I want to talk about the thing that I feel like is going over some people's heads. This was a 14-minute long trailer. So that means that there was a lot of Pokemon shown in this trailer, and a lot of these Pokemon are returning Pokemon that we haven't seen in a couple of games, right? We're currently trying to build the pieces of the Paldean Pokedex. We know a few Pokemon that are getting in there, but there's still a lot of spots left. A lot of these spots are limited, but there's still 6 new returning Pokemon in this show that we did get confirmed, and I want to go over and talk about them today. Now, thanks to our good friends over at Syrupy, Joe is currently comprising a list of the Pokemon that we currently have in the game that are, confirmed through trailers. So, with that, he went ahead and added in some Pokemon that weren't previously confirmed. Of course, we know Farafarig is here, Riffraff, the new Girafarig evolution, but we're not going to be talking about it today. What we're going to be talking about are the new Pokemon that are returning. So that being the Toxtricity, right? The Toxtricity being the one Pokemon that we didn't have previously confirmed, but now we get to go ahead and see Toxtricity again. Maybe this is the second coming of Toxtricity. Who knows, right? Super excited to see Toxtricity in this game. Now, unfortunately, Toxtricity did have one of the worst stat distributions in the game, which is kind of why it wasn't seeing too much competitive play. Yeah, these stats are not doing Toxtricity any favors. Maybe it'll see a little bit of competitive play. It does have kind of unique abilities with Punk Rock and that, boosting sound-based moves, and it getting the access to, a unique move, that being, what is it called? Overdrive? Right? That's Overdrive, the spread special base 80 sound-based move. So it does have kind of a nicheness to it. Maybe electric will be scarce enough to where Toxtricity can see some play, but I think I talked about this on the podcast. In a meta and in a world where Rotom is in the game, it's really hard to justify any other electric types. You got Rotom in the game, it's really hard to justify other Pokemon,
right?
Because now you can create your own Rotom form. Like, it's wild, right? We can just be like, hey, screw it, I'm gonna have electric and anything else that I want. This one's cool because it's electric poison. Maybe you could do some fun terastallizing things with it, but it's kind of in that awkward speed tier where it's not slow enough for Trick Room and it's not fast enough for competitive play. So you do kind of have to stick a scarf on it, and that does limit you a lot in what you're doing. But yeah, that's Toxtricity. Moving on with the list, we do see that regular Quagsire is in the game. So we're going to have Pooper, the Wooper, and we're also going to have Quagsire. So what does this mean? Does this mean that Wooper is just evolving into a Quagsire? Does this mean that Quagsire will have a regular Wooper in the game? Does this mean that they'll both be in the game? I don't know. But Quagsire is not a bad competitive Pokemon either. In fact, it's one of the best ones on this list, and that's simply because of the ability Unaware. Quagsire, if in a meta where Rillaboom doesn't exist, Quagsire can actually be very good. If Rillaboom didn't exist in Sword and Shield, then Quagsire would be one of the best counters to Zacian. Right? And we all know that Zacian is pretty darn good because it has the ability Unaware. It is actually decently tanky with base 95 HP. Most restricted Pokemon have 95 base HP. Just to put that into comparison, a lot of them don't get up to 100. So Quagsire has as much HP as a restricted Pokemon. Defenses are kind of meh. Attacks and special attacks are kind of meh, but that's not the purpose of Quagsire. The purpose of Quagsire is to sit there, not take any damage, and not care about your stat boosts. So there might be a meta where Quagsire can see some play. Also, Water Absorb, not a bad ability too. Can be very good into like a heavy rain meta as well. But, as long as Sprigatito isn't like super duper meta, or Serena isn't super duper meta, then maybe Quagsire can see some play. Moving on with our list, we have none other than Muck. So Muck is interesting. Muck is interesting because regular Muck is really bad, right? Regular Muck is not that great. It has really high HP, has pretty decent attack stat, and pretty decent special defense stat, but its defense is kind of lacking, its speed is kind of lacking, its ability is a little bit underwhelming, right? Its abilities also just don't do it any favor. But if this does open the door, because Muck wasn't in Sword and Shield, but this might open the door for Alolan Muck. And if Alolan Muck gets to play in the game, this is where things start getting interesting with the access to Gluttony and the power of Alchemy adds a lot more of a better typing, not being weak to Psychic now. You have the Poison Dark, which is like one of the best type combinations in the game. Very rare Pokemon have the Poison and Dark combination, and the Pokemon that do have it only have one weakness, right? So you can always just use that to your advantage. Of course, you could always make the argument, hey, what if you Terrasilize Muck into something else? Yeah, sure, but I can make that argument for every single Pokemon. I think Muck as a returning Pokemon is interesting. I think a Alolan Muck as a returning Pokemon will be a lot more interesting. This Pokemon got a lot of competitive play back in regional decks, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. So if we're going to be in regional decks again, I don't see why this Pokemon can't see a lot of competitive play again. Next, we have none other than, oh, we got a big generational gap here. Pyroar. Next, we have Pyroar. It's been a while, Pyroar. Ever since Generation 6, I feel like this Pokemon has disappeared from existence. Generation 6 brought upon a lot of interesting fire plus normal, or electric plus normal, or something plus normal combinations. In this generation, we're going to be seeing the grass plus normal with Smoliv. And it's interesting because normal doesn't technically hurt the Pokemon that much. It kind of helps the Pokemon by receiving that extra immunity, of course, also receiving that extra weakness, but it's a give and take. For the most part, you do also get an extra stab if you want to go for like hyper voices or hyper beam. So there's a give and take here. Now, Pyroar isn't a bad Pokemon. It's just kind of an underwhelming Pokemon, I think, is the best way to put it. Does have base 109 special attack, does have base 106 speed, does have access to Moxie and a Nerve, which are really two great competitive abilities. I mean, a Moxie doesn't make too much sense here because you don't really want to go attack, but a Nerve is great for like just getting those berries out of the game, not having to pay attention to them in the slightest. And you know, fire typing as a whole is very scarce. I think if you look at a distribution of all the types of all the Pokemon that exist, fire typing is one of the least typings in existence. So when you get another fire type in the game, it's always nice. Of course, you do have to make the argument, why would you use Pyroar over Arcanine? I feel like they do serve different niches, though. And they are going to introduce a lot of different fire-type Pokemon into the game. Like, we do have the new Fuecoco. People are expecting Armarouge and Ceruledge to be pretty decent Pokemon. New Fire Ghost and a new Fire Psychic. So, unfortunately, Pyroar is going to kind of fall behind a little bit, I think. It's going to feel like it's going to take the back seat again, which sucks because this is a really cool designed Pokemon. Its face is literally a Fire Blast. And it just looks like it's going to take the back seat again, but we'll see. It all depends on what the stats of those other Pokemon are as well, right? And if Incineroar ever enters the game, then I'm sorry, Pyro, you're gone again. We got another cat in the mix. Towards the bottom, this was revealed today, behind a bunch of Pokemon, and I even made a tweet about it saying, how did y'all forget about Rookidee? This is single-handedly probably the best competitive Pokemon that was revealed today, right? This is the best competitive Pokemon that was revealed today because Steel Flying is a disgusting typing. Corviknight saw a lot of competitive play until Regieleki entered the mix. Before Regieleki, Corviknight was terrifying. Now, a lot of people can say, hey, Kevin, Corviknight was terrifying because of Dynamax. No. Because the Body Press plus Iron Defense set is terrifying too. And what's the one thing that Corviknight can do that Ferrothorn can't do? Yeah, that's use a flying move on a Shedinja. Ferrothorn can't do that. Corviknight can. So Shedinja can't even stop you from going for like Iron Defense body presses. Thankfully, Shedinja hasn't been confirmed for the game yet, thank goodness. But still, nevertheless, one of the nicest defenses in the game, one of the highest HPs in the game. This thing is one of the best defensive typings in the game, having 2 immunities, a bunch of resistances, and only 2 weaknesses. And overall, pretty decent stat distribution. Has 53 special attack that it doesn't use, but thankfully that's low enough to where it doesn't make much of a difference. Is kind of in that awkward speed tier, but thankfully this Pokemon isn't used for speed. It's used for tankiness, and it's used to set yourself up and then knock your opponents out. Also, you have access to Roost. You know, it's ridiculous. After a couple Iron Defenses, you're not going down to a physical attacker anymore. And your 2 weaknesses are Fire and Electric. Those are like almost exclusively special typings, right? So that's the other thing that we have to worry about. It's just like, all your resistances are physical. All your resistances are physical, and you're going to be setting up your defenses. You can also even stick an assault vest on this thing if you want. It does have the cool ability Mirror Armor. It does also have a nerve if you want to go a nerve. Pressure, meh, that's okay if you have no other option. But Mirror Armor is really cool, especially against Intimidates. They intimidate you, you intimidate them back. Or even if they're trying to lower your stats, you know, with like a charm, they charm you, you charm them back, because that's just the way Mirror Armor works. It's really cool. It's a very awesome Pokemon. Probably one of my favorite Generation 8 Pokemon that got to see some competitive play, but unfortunately kind of fell off once they introduced the base 200 speed Regieleki to the game. Now on to the final returning Pokemon that was revealed in today's video. We got Frosmoth. Frosmoth always felt like it was more important than it actually was. I don't know why. I just felt like when people saw Frosmoth, when people saw Ice Scales, when people saw this Pokemon be a thing, they were like, oh, that's the new Volcarona. It's like the fire bug, but now it's an ice bug. And everyone fell in love with Snom too. Snom's kind of cute. But yeah, overall, Snom has very high special attack, very great Trick Room speed. It's not awful, but the thing that kind of makes it fall behind a little bit is its typing. You guys already know what I'm going to say. Terastallize this thing. Get rid of this dumb bug typing. Ice is already as bad as it is, right? We have a 4 times weakness to fire, 4 times weakness to rock, 2 times weakness to steel and flying, and not that many resistances to help it. You do have the added grace of having Ice Scales as an ability, which does boost your special defense by 2, which is like ridiculously high. It's by 2, right? Halves damage from special moves. So yeah, it does the exact same thing I said, but backwards. So it halves the damage from all special moves, which means that, hey, technically your 4 times fire weakness is a 2 times fire weakness, and technically your 4 times fire weakness, your 4 times rock weakness is a 2 times rock weakness if they're special moves, right? So you can give this thing an assault vest and really just stay in there if you want to commit fully to being special defensive. It's kind of cool how both Corviknight that we just talked about is like the very physically defensive Pokemon, and then Frosmoth ends up being the very specially defensive Pokemon. They were kind of returning in the same trailer. That's awesome. But yeah, this Pokemon didn't get to see a lot of competitive play. Maybe you can do something with these typings though, right? Say for example, you just make this Pokemon a type that doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, and then have it use Ice Scales as an ability. Like, you're going to be tanky. You're going to be scary. Base 90 is very high special defense. Of course, base 70 HP isn't very high, but you know, Frosmoth can kind of move its way out of its bad typing this generation. It has that option, which is like, you know, kind of exciting. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what people can actually do with this thing, and we'll see if it can actually live up to the standard that Volcarona set. But anyway, those are the 6 returning Pokemon that were currently shown in today's trailer. What do you guys think of the Paldean Pokedex so far? Please do let us know down below in the comment section. If you guys want links to all of the Paldean Pokedex and to where I'm getting these, you know, images and these websites, we'll leave links to those websites down below in the description. Let me know what you guys think of these returning Pokemon. Do you think any of them will be competitively used? I think I'm going to put my money on Corviknight to being the most relevant one, and if they do bring Alolan Muck back, I'll also put a little bit of my money in there as well. I think Alolan Muck will definitely take some lives in this upcoming regional dex. But with that said, if you guys enjoyed a video like this, leave a like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already for more Scarlet and Violet news and information and gameplay. And with that said, I'm Kevin, Pokésports. Thanks for watching. Have a great night, and peace out.